Additional aids and services are available to individuals with disabilities. To make such a request, please contact us by email by clicking the Help tab in the PD portal or at pdportal@tamu.edu, by phone including Relay Texas at 1-800-441-7323, or in writing to Train PD, PD Portal Support, 4477 TAMU, College Station, Texas 77843. Both a transcript and accessible document of the content presented in this webinar can be found as resources in the course description. Click on the blue links under Course Resources in the description. When a link is clicked, a new browser window will open.
Welcome, everyone. As a reminder, we always want to let you know that the Distance Education Call Center is ready and available to help both you and your students. They are open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. You can have questions, anything related to distance education. They also have online test support, virtual class assistance, anything that you may have questions on related to distance education. If you also would like some training, they offer a variety of sessions, so go ahead and contact the DE Education Center. Welcome to Manager Monday. Our topic today is Harnessing AI, Innovative Strategies for AEL Leadership, and our presenter today is Dr. Glenda Rose, our director here at TCAL.
Hello, everybody. It's great to have you here. We're going to jump right in. Let me tell you what I want to accomplish with this session. So Gen AI is generative AI, so AI that can create things. But what I would like to demonstrate for you is ways that you can use AI to increase efficiency in day-to-day tasks, the ways that we can maybe leverage AI to help with making data-driven decisions for your programs, and then also how you can brainstorm with AI for ways to improve student outcomes. The first question is talking about efficiencies, making things more streamlined. AI, for those of you who are new to it, is a large language learning model for a computer. So it's basically like a search engine, but it learns from your questions and answers, and it searches the internet and all these databases for the answers. So you can use it kind of like a thought partner. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you some ways that I can use it. And I was going back to program director type models, coordinator level models. So hopefully if you have other things that you want to try, we can test Copilot out and see what it says. Let me give you an example that happens. We have to have a difficult conversation. I know that's the least favorite part of our jobs. We have to have a conversation with someone because we have an instructor, Gary, who is engaging in some things that are not acceptable. For example, he is consistently late to his class, 5 to 10 minutes late, and our expectation is that he is 30 minutes early to do his lesson planning and student outreach and those kinds of things. Plus, he's not turning in his lesson plans each week, and when he does, he's not using the template that we've approved for our agency, and he's not including any content standards on those also, so they're out of compliance with TWC rules. He does turn in his sign-in sheets on time, but there's not always a timeout, or he forgot to sign it, or he forgot to put the date on it. Just a lot of little problems with the sign-in sheet. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Just as an example, I'm going to ask AI to help me write the follow-up email to our difficult conversation, because I'm not at the point where I want to do this as a formal write-up yet. I want to do this as a counseling session first, but whenever you do a counseling session with a staff member, you want to have something in writing. So if you do have to go to the next level and go to HR, then you want to have it documented. But most programs work like that. So this is my counseling session. I'm going to follow it up with an email. So I want to send an email out. I want to talk about the format. A nice acronym to remember is CRISP. You want to write a CRISP prompt. When you're talking to AI, remember it is a computer and it does have some background knowledge, but it doesn't have everything that you need. So you have to be very clear with it. You have to tell it the context. You have to give the role both of yourself and of the person that you are talking with. You need to give it clear instructions about what you want. You need to talk about style. And if there's any parameters, you need to include that. For example, when I was doing my COA presentations, there was something about it needed 150 characters or something unreasonable that I could not make work. So I just asked it, hey, here's my abstract. Can you put this into 150 characters? So that would be a parameter issue. How long is it going to be? Here's my prompt. Here's my role. I'm an adult education director who just had a difficult conversation with a part-time teacher, Gary. And I need you to help me draft a follow-up email. So here's my key points. Being late is unacceptable. Part of his 30-minute planning time is lesson planning, and they need to be on the correct template. Attendance is very important. Then at the bottom, if you notice, I talk about tone. So here is that style. I need the tone to be warm and appreciative of his work, but also clearly let him know that we expect professionalism. This is the actual prompt that I put into Copilot. Can you see the elements of CRISP there? The context, the role, the instructions, the style. I did not give it specific parameters, except that I'm telling it that it is an email. The first thing I want you to keep in mind is when you're talking to any AI, whether it's Copilot or Gemini, with just Google's, or ChatGPT or Claude, whatever you're using, there's a bunch of them out there now. You do need to make sure that the prompt is well written, or you will get crazy responses. You can always refine it, but it's always better if you can just write it the way you want it the first time. Here is Copilot's response. Hi, Gary. I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to take a moment to follow up on our recent conversation regarding some important expectations for your role. First, I want to express my appreciation for the dedication you bring to our program. Your contributions are invaluable, and I truly value the effort you put into supporting our students. That said, I need to emphasize the importance of punctuality. And then it goes on to give the instructions as far as the things that we talked about. And then next to the last paragraph, I appreciate your understanding and commitment to maintaining a professional environment. Our goal is to provide the best possible learning experience for our students, and your role is key to achieving that. Thank you for your attention to these matters. If you have any questions or need further clarification, feel free to reach out. Now, I could have written this email myself, and I certainly could adapt any part of this once the Copilot gave me the result. But how long do you think it would have taken me to come up with this very nicely worded email? It would have taken me quite a bit of time. And Copilot came up with it maybe 3 seconds. Basically, I'm using this as a starting point. I'm not necessarily going to use this particular email.
Why are you using Copilot today?
Some of the examples I'm going to use later, I'm going to actually pull reports from Teams and upload those into Copilot. One, Copilot is easier to upload documents to, but also at this point, Microsoft, which is Copilot, is the only one that is not using your data to continue to help the AI learn. If you load it into Gemini or ChatGPT, it is using your data. And because we are dealing with student data, I don't want to risk that. So we have Microsoft for Business, Copilot's included in that. I'm going to use Copilot just to maintain the integrity of the data and keep it safe. I'm not saying that I haven't used the others. I've used Google, Gemini. Sometimes I run it through all 4 of them, the 4 that I just mentioned, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and Copilot, just to see what the different answers are. But if there is any data or anything that I feel is sensitive, I'm going to restrict myself to Copilot. I don't know if that's going to change in the future, but that is the situation right now. Does anybody think this letter is a little too nice? But let's say that this is something that's come up before, and I want to be a little stronger this time. So I can take the same exact prompt and then just change the bottom and say, hey, I want you to make the tone serious. So let's see what you think about the difference here. What do you notice about the difference in the way that the email is crafted if I tell Copilot that I need the tone to be serious? Not nearly as appreciative. There's not a lot of that. We appreciate your effort. The numbering is easy to see and the layout's a little bit cleaner, so it's very clear what we're talking about. Even changing one item in your prompt will change your results. You need to keep that in mind. There's the bold font there. Let's make this very clear what we're talking about. So I'm going to change the tone and I'm going to say, hey, this is a warning. So we've had this conversation before. I am writing to follow up on a recent discussion. It is crucial that we address some serious concerns that, if not resolved, may lead to corrective action. These are the hardest ones for me to write, I'll be honest. I don't like being overly harsh to people, but it's not fair to them if there's a possibility that this is going to turn into corrective action with HR and I haven't given them that notification. So you can take these emails and tell it what kind of format. You could restrict it to the number of words that you want. You could tell it what reading level you want. You would get different results. You can then take this and you can customize it to make it fit for you. This just saves a lot of time. It just takes me forever to write an email like this because I'm trying to wordsmith, I'm trying to be sensitive to the situation and to the employee, and it just takes me a while. So this has been probably one of the most common things that I do, is I use it to help me start the email. I almost never send the email out exactly as Copilot has written it, but it does get me started, and then it takes me a lot less time to craft an email that is appropriate. The next thing I wanted to show you is creating standard forms. I uploaded the AEL letter 0717 change 1, required syllabus design for adult education and literacy instruction. If you want me to show you how to do that, I will, but basically there's a paper clip like everything else and you attach it. And I told Copilot, based on the following requirements, can you create a template for an ESL syllabus? Is Copilot online or is it an app? It is both. Just like ChatGPT also is online and an app. Copilot is just Microsoft's version of ChatGPT. And like I said, I'm using it mainly because I am including some data in a couple of examples here, and I didn't want to have that data exposed to the wider search engines. So here it is. I was curious personally to see what it would come up with based on the letter, what kind of syllabus it would come up with. Originally, I asked it for a lesson plan, so that's why it says lesson plan at the top by mistake. But then it came up with everything that that letter says needs to be in there. Now, I would probably take out, for example, course fees, because I'm not going to use course fees. And here's the template it gave me. So the course calendar, course objectives, attendance policy, participation expectations, evaluation and grading. Now, am I going to use this exactly like it is? Probably not. I'm going to make this specific to my agency, and I'm going to make it work for my classes and programs. But at least I know all of the things that are required are in there. And then you can copy it and then just paste it into a Word document and adjust it from there. So it was able to take the guidance letters, and this is a really useful tool if you have those guidance letters, and help you determine how to create something that is going to be compliant with what TWC is asking us to do in the grant. You still have to adapt it, but at least you know that it's something that it can help you with. Yeah, it does help me save a lot of time because I don't have to decide what I need to include, and I just need to go back and check if I get rid of anything. This, guys, is probably my favorite use. I asked it for a project plan for getting my IET started. So I'm assuming I'm a new program. I don't have any idea about how to get my IETs started. I uploaded the entire RFA, y'all, with the program's answers. I uploaded the entire RFA and I said, hey, I've got to get these IETs started. Can you help me? So now Copilot has all the information about my grant, including what the requirements are for the IETs. And now I'm asking it to help me get started, because sometimes that's the hardest thing. And I was pretty amazed with what Copilot came up for this. Based on the grant document you provided, here's a structured project plan. Adults in the counties you serve, timeline, grant starts July 2024. And then it reminds me that there's some targets inside of that grant that I need to make sure I'm in compliance with. Well, I didn't ask it for that, but okay, that's pretty cool. I'll take it. But then it gets into details. First thing you need to do is a needs assessment. You need to figure out what the workforce training needs and demographics are in your counties. Then we need to get some curricula for those IET programs. We need to recruit staff and develop some partnerships. That seems like a very logical step to me. Okay, so those are how I'm going to get started. And then I need to work on the budget. And I got to make sure that I've got enough money in my budget set apart for these IETs. You've got to figure out how you're going to track your enrollment, because this is actually kind of tricky. If you don't have a spreadsheet keeping up with your IETs, most of the data that you need is not just easily pulled from Teams. So being able to track the completion rates and the job placement statistics, that's something you need a spreadsheet for. So it's a good suggestion here to make sure that we know how to track it. And then for that quarterly report, we need to be able to say what we did and how we did it. And then talking also about support services, because that's in the grant, about what kind of support services we're going to be able to offer and how we might be able to offer different flexible scheduling depending on the IET. Maybe we need to do a day and a night class. And then it even talks about outreach strategies. In the conclusion, it says this project plan outlines the essential steps to successfully launch your IET programs by focusing on community needs, effective partnerships, and robust support services. You can create impactful educational opportunities for adults in your service area. And then you could ask it additional questions. So we could go back to this prompt. Is there anything else you would ask or anything you would want more clarification on the response that it gave so far? Suggestions for the data management. Okay, let's ask it. Here's my original prompt. Can you provide some suggestions for the data management piece? You may want to use a learning management system to track student progress. You might want to use surveys and feedback forms. You might think about data management systems, Airtable or Access. And it talks about data privacy, what I might think about, and analysis. If I were tracking participation and outcomes in Excel, what would be a good set of column headers? Participant ID, name, contact information, enrollment, program type, attendance, completion status, assessment scores, skills acquired, job placement. Oh, that's pretty good. Now I have this list of headers. I can create my spreadsheet and I know I'm not going to miss anything. What are the current in-demand occupations in my area? Remember, you have to critically look at all the answers because looking on the internet, so not always get the right thing. It says for your area, let's see if manufacturing shows up. Healthcare, registered nurses, medical assistants, home health aides, manufacturing, production workers, machinists, quality control inspectors, IT, construction, transportation, logistics, and education. You can ask it questions like that. It can summarize that information very quickly for you. For the employment outcomes, which calendar quarters are needed to be tracked per student? Let's see what it does. I don't know if it can answer it, but we can ask it. Oh, it's searching the web, so it didn't go back to my document. I would have to really look at that one to make sure that it's correct. Can you adjust that based on the grant document? Ah, yeah, so then it gave me a different thing. Post-completion follow-up, 30 days after program completion. So then it went back into the grant and it gave me the rules for that follow-up based on the grant. But you did see that I could not use the first answer. So whenever you're getting responses from AI, you don't get to turn your brain off. You have to think, does it make sense? And did it understand me? Just like you would with any real person, they may not understand your question. So you can see this can really help you save some time, especially in those initial planning stages, and you're really trying to think through all these different places. And anything on here, the 5, 6, 7, can you give me more information about student support services? Can you give me a list of partners in the community who might be able to help us with student support services? You could go deeper on any of these levels. So this was a great way to get started if you are starting from scratch and you really don't know how to get started. So the second thing I talked about was data-driven decision-making. So here's the prompt. I'm in Brazos County right now. How many adults in Brazos County need English as a second language? And it said, well, detailed statistics may not be readily available. However, some general insights can be drawn from demographic. Basically, 23.65 speak other languages. The foreign population is about 12.2%, which is 28,000 people. And the largest non-English group is Spanish speakers. This indicates a potential demand for ESL services tailored to Spanish speakers. If you're looking for data for your area, you can do this. You can also ask it, what are your resources for that answer? I'm curious where it got the numbers from. Can AI lead to job displacement? It can lead to both. It can lead to job displacement, and it also can lead to job creation, because what you're now doing is AI is going to replace anything that can be very routine. And so now you need creative, critical thinkers to be able to use the AI to move the industry forward. We've been talking about AI causing job disruption. And then there's some things AI cannot do. AI cannot do construction. I do not want AI doing the building of my house. So also thinking about where that AI is going to be leveling the playing field. This is the thing I'm excited about as an ESL professional, and for my GED students too. It can level the playing field. For example, some people will never get their foot in the door because they cannot write a professional sounding resume or cover letter, or they send emails back to their boss that do not sound like they are promotable. So if they can use AI to help them present themselves in a way that they should be presented with their skills and talents, that could actually help them. But we have to teach them how to do that. It's not going to be inherent. It's not going to be automatic for them. I uploaded a POC report and I asked Copilot, can you analyze this report for who is most likely to have hours based on age? So I uploaded the report. I pulled it down as a PDF file. I found it works better with PDF reports than it does with Excel. And it came up with this. The ages of the participants range. The majority of the participants are between 30 and 50. Now, what was interesting is it also gave some recommendations that are not part of the report. Look at number 4, recommendations. Programs should consider providing tailored support for older participants to address their specific needs. That is neither the question I asked it, nor is it in the data. That is totally AI putting its 2 cents in there. So when you're looking at these reports, you do have to think about, what is it saying? Does it make sense? And do I agree with it? Engagement strategies. For your younger participants, strategies to enhance engagement and reduce reliance on proxy hours could be beneficial. Conclusion. A correlation between age and the likelihood of having proxy hours, the older participants being more affected. So this was interesting. From this particular POC report, more older students had distance learning hours than younger students, which I thought was just really interesting. Look at number 2.2, proxy hours analysis. Participants with higher proxy hours tend to be older. This suggests that older participants may have more complex needs or barriers that lead to increased reliance on proxy hours. I thought that was very interesting. Not that I necessarily agreed with it, but it was something for me to think about. Do I need to help the younger students do more proxy hours? Do I need to change my offerings for my in-person classes so that those older students are able to attend? Are they using proxy hours because my classes are not at a day or time that they can attend? It was just an interesting way to analyze it. So again, I just uploaded the data and then I asked it to analyze it. I did nothing else. Can you analyze this report? And I asked it a specific question about who is most likely to have proxy hours. Let me give you another example. This time I uploaded an MSG report. And I said, based on this MSG report, who is likely to have educational functioning level earned or HSE issued by gender and pretest instrument? So it gave me a long response here, guys. So I just copied a couple of the items. It gave me a lot more analysis than I really wanted. Basically, it decided that males tend to perform well in vocational assessments. It looked at the MSG report and said, hey, these guys all made skills progressions. So what that tells me is I had better success with my men that were in my vocational classes and my IETs than that were in my regular classes. That was interesting. Female participants have a higher completion rate in HSE programs. Those assessed with TABE 1112 and CASAS showed a significant likelihood of obtaining their HSE. Well, of course, we use TABE and CASAS for our HSE students, so that wasn't really jaw-breaking or anything like that. That was just common sense. But then it added this line, if they are enrolled in targeted programs like HSE boot camps. Now, on the MSG report, it does tell them what classes they are in, so maybe it got it from there, but I wasn't sure why it came to that conclusion. So that was one of those that maybe raise an eyebrow and say, I wonder how accurate that is. Maybe I need to look at this report in terms of the HSE boot camps and see if there are better outcomes for those students in those classes than in the regular classes. I uploaded another MSG report And I wanted to know which students are more likely to stay in the program at least 3 months. So it said, students most likely to stay in the program for at least 3 months are typically younger, female, and then this, engaged in structured assessments like Best See or Tape. Well, of course, they all took Best See or Tape. AI doesn't understand that we test everybody. But then it came up with this. Their participation in supported programs and recent engagement with the curriculum also play crucial roles in their retention. What? I don't know where it got that from. I'm not sure exactly how it came to that conclusion. But of course, supportive programs, how does it know whether my program is supportive or not? There's no way for it to know what kind of support they are getting based on the MSG report. So this is just another point. It can help you with the data analysis, but when it gives you its answer, you need to really think critically about what it's saying, and then you determine for yourself if that is a suggestion or an idea that you want to follow up on or not. The none, some, and mostly report. That is the report for distance learning that tells you the students who have some proxy hours, but less than 50%, mostly more than 50%, or 0 proxy hours. It's one of our distance learning reports and teams. So I asked it, what information does this PDF, which was the report, give me about student completions and proxy hours? Impact. Students with less than 50% proxy hours showed markedly better completion rates compared to those with no proxy hours. By the way, that has been true for the last 14 years. Generally speaking, if you pull the reports, those students who have some, but not none or mostly, will outperform the others. So this indicates that even minimal engagement can lead to improved educational outcomes. Well, now I agree with that conclusion, but it's not really in the data. It's just a conclusion that AI has made. Now, this was interesting. The advanced ESL and ASE levels demonstrate lower completion rates, suggesting that students may struggle with the complexity of the material or lack adequate support. Now, that was interesting to me. I would not have come to that conclusion. I might have seen that the advanced ESL were not completing, but I also know, depends on the test, how hard it is to complete a level at the higher levels of the ESL. And ASE levels, did I even post test them? I may have just like taken their HSE as their post test. They're done. Something I would want to look at to see if there was something there for me to dig into. And then it said, the data highlights the need for targeted interventions, especially for students in the ASE category, to enhance their chances of completion. And I think that's because in teens right now, getting your HSE is an MSG, but it does not show as a completion on that report because it's not an EFL completion. So I think that may be why it's coming to that conclusion. This report underscores the importance of engagement through proxy hours in achieving educational success. Wish I could say that really loud with a blowhorn for everybody in Texas. Please get your students on distance learning. Students with some level of proxy hours tend to perform better, particularly in ESL programs, which just makes sense. That's more time on task. So of course they're going to do better. The findings suggest that enhancing support and resources for students, especially in advanced and ASE levels, could lead to improved completion. We do want to talk about improving student outcomes. Here's a question. I just tried this one out just to see what it would do. I uploaded an individual skills profile, and it was the individual skills profile that is analyzed by College and Career Readiness Standards. So ISP by CCRS, that's a CASAS report. In this case, it analyzes the test and tells you the percentage of questions that they got right by College and Career Readiness Standards, because all the questions are aligned to the CCRS standards. So I gave it the ISP from CASAS, and then I asked it what would be its suggestion for an IEP, individual education plan, based on that report. Now, check this out, guys. Improve overall reading comprehension skills to achieve a score of at least 250. Well, that's way above passing for GED. Anybody know what the GED passing rate is? 145. So I'm reading this and I'm like, huh, that's interesting. I wonder why it came up with this. I went back and I asked, are you looking at the 2014 version? And it lied to me. I really feel like AI lied to me. I said, are you looking at the 2014 version of GED? The passing score is 145. So I just told it, you're wrong. And it said, you're correct. The passing score for the test is indeed 145 for each subject area based on the 2014 version of the test. The goals I mentioned earlier were aimed at helping the student achieve scores above that threshold. Liar. You were just looking at the wrong test. It's just like dealing with a person almost. You've got to really think about what it's saying and if you agree to it or not. So you do have to be wise about your answers there. But I appreciate your clarification, very polite. So then it revised my IEP with an achieved score of 150, which is actually what I want students to make, is a 150. And how we need to improve vocabulary and master basic operations of algebraic thinking. If you have any further questions or need additional adjustment, I said, are there any specific activities to help the student improve their math skills in preparation for GED? And so then it just gave me some math ideas, daily math practice, real world applications, budgeting and shopping, interactive learning like math games, group study sessions. So just some basic strategies, which I thought was nice. Well, how can I incorporate more real world scenarios? And so it gave me some activities specifically on those real world scenarios that it had suggested that I could include in my math class. And so then I was like, I wonder how far this thing came. What can the teacher do to help with algebra if she's not good with algebra herself? Y'all don't have teachers like that, right? Everybody that teaches GED math is very good at GED math. I have some that are a little math phobic, so they don't always want to teach math. And it says, here's some things that that teacher can do to support her students while enhancing her own understanding, some practical activities. So I was just thinking things that I've run into as a director, what I could ask it to do. Now, this is the funnest one here at the bottom. Can you give me a step-by-step on how to use the quadratic equation? Y'all ready? Here we go. Here's a step-by-step guide. Identify the coefficients, write down the quadratic formula, calculate the discriminant, substitute the coefficients into the formula. Can you explain that again, like for a sixth grader? Let's see what it comes up with. Think of it as a puzzle. First, we need to identify our numbers. Solve our puzzle. That first one was pretty high, right? It was pretty high talking about discriminants and stuff. You can actually bring it down to different levels. I do this a lot with my ESL classes. I'll take something, put it into Copilot and say, hey, can you bring this down to a second grade level or a third grade level? I gave it a table 4 for one class. So this is just one class. Remember talking about student improvement, right? I'm trying to figure out how to help my students improve. So table 4, if you don't know, it basically tells you how many students were in the class, how many made gains. It breaks it down by different demographics. I want to know, based on this table 4, what is this particular teacher's strengths and weaknesses? So this is a report you can pull straight out of Teams in PDF, load it into Copilot. And here's what it came up with. This particular ESL teacher has the highest completion rate in ESL beginning literacy, 91%. That is awesome. 91% completion rate for ESL. And ESL beginning low had the strongest attendance, with 63% completion rate, which is a lot lower than 91. And perfect completion in ESL intermediate low, I'd have to go back and look at the report. Maybe there was only one person and they completed. So you'd have to actually look at the statistics to see why it's 100%. Then I want to know what the weaknesses are, right? ESL beginning low and beginning high had the lowest completion rate. So they do really good with the literacy level and not as well with the low and the beginning high. It suggests that there may be problems with the curriculum or instructional methods. And then it says the report notes that 36 students separated from the program without completing a level. That may indicate that there's a student retention issue that we need to talk about due to factors such as lack of support, motivation, or external challenges faced by the learners. Now, interesting, because that is not in the report, right? We're looking at hard data and it's coming up with these suggestions, but okay, maybe. And then it said only one student advanced from the ESL beginning literacy level. There's a gap there. Now, I did a report like this probably 15 years ago. I ran table 4 for me and another teacher, and I saw something similar. My beginning ESL students were rocking it, but my higher levels were not making as many gains. My fellow teacher in a different class, we both had multi-level classes, had the opposite. She had very low advance for the beginning levels, but her intermediates and advanced were doing great. So I looked at the report and said, okay, what's going on there? But here, this is doing this analysis for me, and then I can go back and figure out what I need to do to adjust my teaching to get those better results. So it's all about student outcomes. We want to see what teachers are doing. You can pull that table 4, pull it in there, and see what it suggests are the strengths or weaknesses. Do not take it as gospel. You need to look at it, think, does it make sense? There was one class that I had that had 12 students in it. And all of a sudden the class was down to 6. Well, what I didn't know was 6 of the members of that class were all in the same family and they moved. So it wasn't the teacher's fault that her class dropped by 50%. She lost one family and it dropped the whole class, right? Data tells you what, it does not necessarily tell you why. So you need to go back and look at the why. In conclusion, this is what it determined based on that table 4. The teacher has strengths in engaging and supporting students at the ESL beginning literacy and intermediate low, but there are weaknesses in retention and advancement, particularly in the beginning low and beginning high. Addressing those areas could enhance overall student success. I just want to point out some things to you. AI can help you make more efficient, quicker data-driven decisions and improve student outcomes. It can help you look at things from a different lens because we all look at data, we all look at reports from our own lens. So this is basically just having something else look at it and maybe giving you a different perspective. You need to think of it though as a thought partner, not an answer getter. You can't just ask it for all the answers. Sometimes if you're asking it how many people in my area need ESL services, it can give you some hard data from the web. But in general, when you're thinking about program issues, you want to think of it as something that's helping you generate ideas, not something that's just going to give you the answers that you're looking for. You got to keep in mind that AI is learning. It is a large language learning model, and it is always looking at your answers. You have to teach it the kind of responses you want. So if it doesn't give you the answer you want, you ask a follow-up question. The more I use Copilot, and this is my Copilot through my sign-on for Microsoft, the more it knows what I'm looking for and it tailors its responses to what I'm looking for. I did create a topic in the Manager Monday materials in Connect if you want to share other ways that you have used AI in the program management and development side. If you want to use that, that is there.
We hope you enjoyed this pre-recorded webinar. After you have passed the final test with a score of 80% or greater and have received your certificate of completion, please take a few moments to complete the course evaluation. Participant feedback helps Train PD at TCAL continue to provide high-quality professional development. To leave a course feedback, please go to the completed portion of your transcript. To do this, hover over the My Learning tab and select View Your Transcript. Click on the drop-down arrow next to the word Active and select Completed. Then, click Evaluate in the drop-down menu next to the course you just completed. Please note that your feedback is greatly appreciated.